Hi everyone, it's me, Hello Ia. Welcome to my channel. I am so excited, and I know I say that every time, but I am really excited every time I say it. I don't make a lot of videos, so when I do come on here with a video, it's because I'm actually excited. I'm super excited today because we are going to talk about my spooky eyeshadow palette collection. We're going to go through the whole thing. It's like 30-something palettes, so buckle up, grab a drink, grab a cocktail, a tea, a coffee. I don't know what time of day it is. You're gonna want something, a snack, because this is a lot. I don't think I've ever filmed a video this long before, so hopefully I can get through it. I have some water right here. Before I jump in, I'll just say a couple things. This is not meant to be like braggy or show-offy. I love eyeshadow. I collect it. It's my passion. I have way more eyeshadow than any one person needs. I am aware of that. I just don't care. I'm not encouraging or suggesting in any way that you should have this many eyeshadow palettes or that you need to buy this many eyeshadow palettes. You can love makeup and only have one eyeshadow palette. I'm just a freaking hoarder. I'm a little gremlin gargoyle hoarder, and I can't stop. So just want to say that. Also, these are not ranked in any way. In my fall favorites video, I had thrown out there to you all like, hey, would you rather I just do my favorites or show you my whole collection? Not a single person requested a ranked video. I did get a couple comments asking to see the whole collection, so we're running with that. And before I jump into it, one last thing, don't forget to subscribe. And with all of that, let's get started. So I have these organized by brand. So first up, I have the Halloween palette. This is a collaboration between Shroud Cosmetics and Batty Bean. I love the theming of this palette, the stripy purple packaging, the bats, and also the colors. Like the greens, the oranges, this really deep blackish purple. This palette is really fun to play with. I've done some really cute looks with it, and it's so simple, 9-pan, easy to carry, easy to travel with. I also have the original collaboration between Batty Bean and Shroud Cosmetics, the It's Freaking Bats. This one is also just super stunning, 9-pan, more on the green and purple side. No orange in this one. I feel like they both go together really well. They're great companion palettes. It's really fun to mix and match between these. I am a big fan of like this really deep purple, and this like blurple shade here together is just gorgeous. And I'm a sucker, what's this one called? I'm a sucker for Handbook. If you've been here for a little while, then you know that I love purple and I love green. And this is the season for purple and green. Next up, I have two palettes from Oden's Eye. These are both collaborations with Angelica. This is the little ghost palette. I love the packaging on these. It's so beautiful. Look at how fun this color story is. Now, Angelica grew up in Sweden. She didn't grow up celebrating Halloween, so it was really interesting to see her take on a Halloween eyeshadow palette. And she did too, so this is what I would call like the more colorful one. I really love this top row with these purples and this bright yellow. It's so good. And then you have your oranges and like your reddish burgundies, and then these blues are really unexpected to me, but I think this palette is really fun. I've made some really cute looks out of it, and Oden's Eye has a great formula, and this palette is no exception, so I really do enjoy this one. The second palette that Angie did with Oden's Eye is called Trick or Treat. Again, you've got this stunning artwork. This one has more of a orange and green vibe. The other one was a little more colorful. And that is reflected on the inside as well. This one to me is like very pumpkin patch. This, I think she nailed the pumpkin vibes with this palette. And there are some really beautiful colors in here. These greens, stunning, just glorious. This orange, this red, and this shimmer go so well together. Honestly, this palette is so cohesive, so well thought out. And again, the Oden's Eye formula is phenomenal, and the shimmers in here go hard, so don't sleep on Odin's Eye. Next up, I have some palettes from Bella Beauté Bar. First, Strange and Unusual. This is the first version of the Strange and Unusual palette. I'm still trying to decide if I want to get the reformulated version. I'm on the fence, but my one friend Manuela keeps posting things about the upgraded one, making me really want to get it. But we'll see. We'll see. This palette is beautiful. I think I'm going to say that about every palette. I'm sorry. I have all of these because I love them. If I didn't like a palette, I've already decluttered it. So anything that's still here, I really like. And this is no exception. I think that they did a really great job of picking out colors from the Beetlejuice movie. So obviously you've got your greens, your purples. Some of these shimmers are just immaculate. Bella Beauté Bar has one of my favorite shimmer formulas. These are just lovely. And this palette is so fun to play with. This shade Afterlife right here, like, I don't know if you can see how it shifts, but that one is really fun to play with. Next up from Bella Beauté Bar, I have the Basic Witch palette. This came out last year, and to me, this might be my perfect Halloween palette. You've got your purples, you've got your greens, you've got pink, which is a fun pop, and orange. So you've got your pumpkin, you've got your witchy vibes. I am obsessed with this palette. This palette is Halloween perfection to me. I enjoy the cuter side of Halloween, so I really love all the cutesy, spooky things. I like the horror and the gore too, but I'm really a soft kawaii girl in my heart. Bella Beauté Bar was very sneaky and did a double Halloween release last year, so I also have the recently de-influenced palette. This is a really excellent companion to the Basic Witch. They both play very well together. They're both gorgeous, and there's something about these oranges. This is like not even orange, this is like a reddish pinky orange. I don't even know what to call this color here. There's something about these two columns that just does it for me. It just does it for me. You still got your purples, your really deep burgundy brown, a green, the shimmers. Like I said, Bella Beauté Bar has some of my favorite shimmers. They don't disappoint in this palette either. This is just such a stunning, spooky palette. Oh, I love it. And finally, I have their spooky palette from this year, Poison Garden. Now, this is technically like a redo of a couple older palettes. I believe they had a volume 1 and a volume 2 in the past. It had a different layout, it had fewer pans, but it was also called Poison Garden. And this is actually what I'm wearing today. So this goes really hard on like the grungy garden vibes. I think this is a beautiful grungy rainbow color story, and these shimmers. Hello. This one right here, what's it, Wisteria? Are you kidding me? This one right here is so crazy. I don't know if you can see how it glows. It literally glows. Like it's a grungy, dangerous garden. And I love it. We're gonna do some ColourPop palettes. Now ColourPop has done many spooky releases through the years, and I have a lot of them. So first up, the most recent to my collection is the Welcome Foolish Mortals. This is their collaboration with the Haunted Mansion from Disney. I have only used this once because I just got it like a week and a half ago. But this is a really pretty palette. This is not so much like Halloween spooky as it is just kind of like spooky vibes, drawing from the ride at Disney. And so it's very cool toned, but you have like these pops of turquoise and like almost seafoam green that I think make this collection and this palette really interesting. Next up, I have the Nightmare Before Christmas palette. Now we can sit here and argue about whether this is a Christmas palette or this is a Halloween palette. I consider it both. But look at this. This is just such a bright, fun color story. It's like colorful, but still kind of like grungy at the same time. This pink. But this palette is really fun. You can see that I have used this orange shade so much that the little imprint is gone. Next up, I have the ColourPop Hocus Pocus palette. This is the original one, Gather Round Sisters. There are 3. I have all 3. We're going to go in order. So this was the first one. I still really love this. I think this is a beautiful, toasty, just oof. I get warm just looking at this palette. These shades up here in the top row are just, and I'm not a neutrals girl, but these shades up here, they make a really beautiful neutral look, and if you smoke it out with some of these darker shades, this palette can get pretty sexy, y'all. I'm just saying, I have done some very sultry looks with this palette. It's a good one. They followed that up with this little Witching Hour palette. This one of the 3 is probably my least favorite of the Hocus Pocus collaborations, and it's not that I don't like it, it's just not as fun, not as unexpected as the other 2. So I feel like this one is very straightforward. I don't feel super inspired when I look at it, whereas with the other 2, I get really excited and I get inspired to try new things, and I tend to stick to the colors that go together. I don't get super creative on this one. And then next, we have the 3rd collaboration between ColourPop and Hocus Pocus. This is actually with Hocus Pocus 2, the 2nd movie. And this one, what's it called? All Hallows Eve. This is a really good one. I love it. I feel like this palette is like Witching Hour, but done right. This palette makes me feel excited. This palette makes me feel inspired. This palette just makes me happy. Like, there's no other way to really explain it. This is a really good one. This is one of my favorites from ColourPop. We have the is this the C2 palette from Sugarpill? It's their black capsule palette. I really like the capsule palettes from Sugarpill. I think they have an interesting layout. The color stories are really cohesive and beautiful. And I really like that they include these bigger blush / eyeshadow shades. I'm the type of person who really likes to bring their blush up into their eyeshadow. So to have a blush that's part of the palette that goes with the color story is something that I really appreciate. And I actually used this recently and I had forgotten how good the Sugarpill formula is. This next one, I'm not sure if it's technically a spooky palette per the brand, but to me, this fits the bill. This is the Nocturnal Mini from Glaminatrix. Look at this color story. Look at this color story and tell me that wasn't meant for spooky time. This is a spooky time palette. And the names also make me think that you've got Witching Hour, Nightfall Shadow, Obscurity. It's just, this was meant for spooky season, even if it wasn't. And this palette, I've only used it once. It's a newer to me palette. Again, I just got it a couple weeks ago. But this palette is gorgeous. Oh my gosh, the look I did with this palette came out so pretty. These mattes blend. They are opaque, they are pigmented, they blend, they layer, and the shimmers, the Glaminatrix shimmers are nothing to sneeze at. I wish I had bought from this brand sooner, although I hear the original version of this palette wasn't as good, so I'm glad I have picked up the mini because this one really is good. Next up, I have the Somber Garden palette from Shall We Makeup. Again, I don't know if the brand is calling this a spooky palette, but it has a freaking cauldron on the front. So to me, it absolutely is. Now, I'll be honest, I just got this the other day. I have not even had a chance to use it yet. But look at this color story and tell me that's not spooky. You've got your purples, your greens, and some nice deep blues. Next up, we have the Glamlite collaboration with Scooby-Doo, their Retro Raggy palette. And this, just everything about this makes me think of Halloween. But look at this color story. It is so perfect for Halloween. You've got your greens, your purples and blues. You have a corresponding shimmer for each matte. And oh my gosh, this palette is so good. Like, literally so much better than I thought it could ever be. These greens, oh my gosh. I did a look with these 6 shades, and I think it's my favorite green look ever. And these 2 shimmers here are so sparkly and just, they are so gorgeous. And I again, Glamlite is newer to me, so I didn't expect this much of a beautiful shimmer shade, and that's on me. That's on me. Last kind of onesie palette is the Element of Evil palette from Sugar Drizzle. So this is very clearly a Halloween palette, and the color story is so fun. I'm sure you're noticing a theme. This one leans more into the orange and green than the purple and green, but Sugar Drizzle has some of the most beautiful shimmers that I've played with, and these are just so fun. Next up is Gourmand Girls, and these 2 palettes are in collaboration with Doodles by the Bunny. First up, I have the Haunted palette. This palette is so cute. First of all, I'm obsessed with the Gourmand Girls formula, but hello. Purples, greens, oranges, pinks. It's perfect. This is, again, my perfect Halloween color story. It's not that different from Basic Witch. The shimmers are very different, but like the idea, obviously they're 2 very different palettes, but the idea of it is the same, and I love it. This is my perfect Halloween color story. And of course, I have the Spooked palette, which is the Gourmand Girls and Doodles by the Bunny original Halloween collab. This is actually my focus palette for this month. So I've already done 3 looks with it, and I'll be doing a 4th look tomorrow. This palette is a little bit toastier. Again, it's like these shades, the orange and like this spicy cinnamon shade, just make me feel warm inside. I think this is a really fun combination, and like these 4 here are just so vampy and sexy. I did a look with these 4 mattes here, and then the pink and the purple shimmer, and actually I think I threw this in between last weekend, and it came out so pretty. So pretty. I love a Halloween palette where you can still be girly and cute, but also spooky. We are up to my Melt palettes. First up, we have the Halloween Town palette. There it is. This palette is so heavy, first of all, but this palette is really cute. You've got like, to me this like makes me think of candy corn, and then you've got like your purples, and then an unexpected pop of blue. I feel like this palette is really fun, whimsical, if you will. The mattes are really nice, and the shimmers are, I don't have a lot of Melt palettes, but these are some of my favorite Melt shimmers. And now I'm wondering if I should have included my Muerte palette, but oh my god, we'll be here forever. Now, again, is this a Christmas or a Halloween palette? We can argue about it, but you're going to see this in the future, so I'm just going to include it right now. This is the Christmas Town palette, and the reason why I'm including it in my spooky collection is because of the inside. Now, do you have red and green? You sure do, but you know what else you have? Purple and green, and to me, that's Halloween. So this is in the Halloween / spooky collection review. And again, these mattes are beautiful. Love, 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 love this half of the palette. These greens, though, don't sleep on them. They're stunning, stunning. And these two palettes play really well together. Next up is Give Me Glow. I have the Haunted Pumpkin palette. I love how the design is inside the word. So cool. This palette has a really interesting color story. Again, that unexpected pop of blue, which maybe I should start expecting it because a lot of palettes do it now. Give Me Glow. I love this palette, but if I could change one thing, I would make it a little bit smaller. Just the pan sizes themselves. These are giant pans. I'm never going to go through this much eyeshadow. But this formula is really good, and the shimmers are extremely foiled and metallic. This is not a hollow, this is not a multi-chrome or a duochrome. This is like a traditional metallic shimmer shadow done right. These are gorgeous, and this orange, what a perfect pumpkin orange. I love it. I always have a good time playing with this palette. And of course, we have to talk about the Bad Witch Club Volume 1 or Season 1, Season Fall. I'm like, does that mean there's going to be another one? I have been waiting. Give me glow. Give us the next season of the Bad Witch Club. Look at this. Just look at this. This color story makes me so happy. Again, these are like metallic foiled shimmer shades. These are not specialty hollow multi-chrome shades, but they are extremely pretty, and these mattes are beautiful. This is one of those that to me ticks the box of like cute Halloween. You've got your pinks, your purples, and your greens, and you've got this periwinkle shade here that's just chef's kiss. So this one is really fun. I like to do my eyes two different colors with this palette because there's a lot of good matching of the tones between the different color stories. It's a good time. Next up is Nomad Cosmetics. And I am thrilled because I finally got my hands on the Haunted Europe palette. This is an icon in the indie makeup community. I have used this palette twice already. And let me tell you something, she's gorgeous. She's worth all the hype. I did an eye look using these 9 shades over here. That might be one of my favorite spooky eye looks ever. It'll be on my Instagram soon. The color story is like traditional Halloween, pumpkin patch, spooky church or graveyard. Like, it's just really good. It performs amazing. I love Nomad's formula, and this lives up to the hype. It really does. And then last year, Nomad came out with their Ghost Town USA palette. I love the little lenticular cover. And this is less traditional spooky season, but still really gorgeous. It's very muted. It's very, I don't want to say neutral because that's not really what it is, but it's definitely less in your face, I guess. I mean, these 2 rows here are super neutral, but then you've got like these really cool tone blues. They're almost gray with a little bit of like green in there even. And then you have like these sagey greens. I really, really like this palette, and even though it's not like traditional Halloween spooky season colors, the formulas and the cool tone of it just really makes me happy, and I love the looks I've done with it. There's nothing wrong with thinking outside of the box, kind of like Angie's little ghost palette that to me is like not quite Halloween the way I think of it. I appreciate a spooky season palette that draws inspiration from things other than pumpkins and witches. But I do love palettes that draw inspiration from witches, which brings us to the iconic, the mythic, the magical Lunar Beauty Moonspell. Oh, there it is. Volume 1. Again, this is like a spooky season legend in the indie community. Manny did us right when he gave us this palette. All of the shades are named after a famous witch, and like purple and green, my heart is happy. It's just such a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous color story. This shade still gets me. Prue, oof, she's that girl. Prue is that girl. And of course you know I have the Lunar Beauty Moonspell Volume 2. Now, still the same iconic artwork on the cover. This one, Manny went really heavy into the purples and the pinks and the reds, and I am here for it. Purple's my favorite color, so I'll never be mad at a heavily purple palette. And purple and red is one of my favorite color combinations for eyeshadow. So again, when this came out, I was like, oh, I absolutely need it. And Manny, I doubt you'll watch this, but if you want to do a volume 3, I will absolutely buy that too. Please do another Halloween palette. These are some of my favorites from the brand, but also just in my collection. And these are palettes that without fail I reach for every year. Every year. You guys, that brings us to our last brand. Any guesses who it could be? If you guessed Unearthly, you are correct. Unearthly Cosmetics does spooky season better than anyone else, according to me. And I have quite a few of their spooky season palettes. Not all, which makes me sad because I didn't discover them in time to snag some of the earlier and, in my opinion, iconic spooky season palettes. But I have quite a few. And this is in no particular order. It's actually just like smallest to biggest so that it sits here nicely. So we'll be starting with the Night Terror palette. This came out this year. It was like a sneaky Summerween mystery box. And as I just mentioned, purple is my favorite color. And this palette is a purple lover's dream. This palette is stunning in every which way. The mattes, the shimmers, the shade selection, the way these colors all play so perfectly together. This palette was so well thought out. It is just so, it's perfect. This is the perfect 9-pan spooky season purple palette. Next up, we have the Not Normal. Now this is the original Not Normal. Well, the original size, the original formula. They did just re-release it in an expanded, updated palette, 18 pans instead of 12. I'll be honest, I purchased it. I'm waiting for it to arrive. But I already found a loving home for this beauty, so don't worry, she's gonna be just fine. But this is one of those iconic, spooky palettes. This palette is just such a good purple and green story. It really plays on those two colors, and it does it very well. You can do an all purple, you can do all green. These go together amazingly. This sage green, ooh, so pretty. This palette is spectacular. I think it's in a lot of people's spooky favorites for a reason, and I'm sure the updated version is going to be even better. Next up, we have the So Strange palette. Now this is clearly influenced by Lydia from Beetlejuice, and the color story really reflects the Beetlejuice vibes. You've got your greens and your purples. This red is so stunning. And this shimmer shade, hold on, let me see if I can show you. This shimmer shade is so pretty. Like, oof. Such a good one. This palette is just, again, it's like spooky but cute vibes. And some of my favorite looks I've ever done in my life with this palette. And like this purpley gray, don't sleep on this purpley gray. It is perfect. It is perfect. So yeah, So Strange is so good and I love it. I can't wait to play with it again. All three palettes that came out at the same time, it was kind of like part of a series. They're all so good. So I'm gonna be like, these are my favorite, but they are like my favorites. I'm sorry. Next up I have 1964 from that same series of palettes. I think these are like 2 years old. Now this color story, again, I'm sure you can see why it makes me happy. Pinks, purples, greens, beautiful shimmer shades. Like, hello, it's very easy to make me happy. It's very easy. And this shimmer here, wow. It's like more metallic, and the way it shifts, like, let me see if I can you see that? How it's like dark blue in the mirror and like turquoise green in the pan. The shift on this shade is unreal. Unreal. This palette, so good. Next up we have The Weirdos. Again, from that same series. This is probably my least favorite of the three. Not because it's bad, just because it's a little grungier and the other two are a little bit like brighter and purplier. But that's really the only reason why. And I've still done amazing looks with this palette. I have not had issues with my shades getting hard pan. I heard that some people did. I have yet to experience that. I don't think they make these anymore, so if you don't already have it, you don't have to worry about it. But if you do, maybe you want to bust it out and give it a little check. This color story is a lot grungier, a lot, I don't want to say dirty like in a bad way, but like dirtier, grungier, grittier. This green is so pretty. Down to the last two. Hauntingly Glamorous. This is the collaboration between Unearthly and Sydney Nicole. Check out how beautiful that cover art is. What a spooky little babe. This is such a fun color story. Okay, you get it. Purples, greens, blues, little pink. This one is very matte heavy for an Unearthly palette. Usually you've got more shimmers than two, but I'm not mad at it because these mattes all play really well together. And like, honestly, I don't feel the need to layer on more than these two shimmers. But if I need to, I've got plenty of other shimmers, and you probably do too. So if you have this palette, dig it out, play with it. This red is, oof, so good, so good. Vampy, sultry, deep, blendable. I have so much fun every time I play with this palette. We're down to the last one. Any guesses? Well, if you guessed Gargoyle, you are correct. My last spooky palette is the Gargoyle palette. This is the newest release from Unearthly. I just got it. I've played with it once and it is phenomenal. This is one of my favorite palettes, period, not just spooky, just overall. This has jumped near the top. I don't know exactly if it's my favorite, but it's one of my favorites. And let me tell you why. This green, sagey green shade and this shimmer, glorious. The way these blues blend together with this purple, it is everything a makeup lover wants out of their mattes. You've got several different color possibilities here. You could just go by row, do it like that. You could stick to your 9-pan, or you can get crazy and mix it up. Like, these colors all play really well together. And these shimmers are the amazing formula that we've come to know and love. On some of these older palettes, like that Sydney Grace one, it's not quite as impactful. It's not quite as sparkly and shiny. But these ones are seriously shiny. If you are still here, thank you so much. You're a real one. You are a real one. You love spooky season as much as I do. Those are all of my spooky season palettes as of today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you had fun. I hope you're as excited for spooky season as I am. Are you gonna dress up this year? What are you gonna be? Do you have any of these palettes? Which one is your favorite spooky season palette? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe. And this is Hello Iya saying, see ya!